it is, Sir has done it. Now it is streaming live on YouTube also.
So you want to start or wait for a few minutes or what?
As you say,
Dr.
sir.
Lata,
Yes, sir, I'm ready, sir.
ready? Okay. All right, let's start.
Okay, sir. So, respected Chief Guest, Professor Madhuvij Ma'am, respected Guest of Honor, Mr. Dhruva Trivedi, our respected Principal Sir, Dr. S.P. Agrawal, after our Program Director, Dr. K. Lata, my colleagues from Ramanujan College, and all the participants, including some very senior people, I welcome all of you to the inaugural session of this 2-week faculty development program, which is being conducted in online mode on innovations in management, education, and research. Now, I will be in this introductory part before inviting our guests and Principal Sir and Program Director Lata Ma'am. I will be just giving you a brief glimpse because many of you are coming in touch with us for the first time. So, brief glimpse about college, department, teaching learning center, and the program, and then we will proceed to our guests and speakers. So Ramanujan College started way back in 1958 as Deshbandhu Evening College, and then it was only for boys. Then we became co-educational in 1994, and we were renamed as Ramanujan College in 2010 after our principal sir took over the headship of the institution in 2008. And since 1972, we are 100% funded by UGC and maintained by University of Delhi. Since 2012, we are full-fledged day college. In 2016, our major milestone one major milestone was achieved in our long journey, which was getting A grade from NAC, being a fresh college in very nascent stage. And we were in the same year also allotted Deen Dayal Upadhyay UGC Kaushal Kendra, under which we are running 2 BVOC courses in banking operations and software development. In the same year, we also started 6 new honors courses of Delhi University in the disciplines of applied psychology, computer science, mathematics, management, philosophy, and statistics. Then in the subsequent year, 2017, we inaugurated our new building. This is our new building. We would have loved to have you all, host you all in our campus in Kalkaji, South Delhi, but we are doing it in online mode. And in the same year, we were also awarded with Teaching Learning Center. And again, we started a new course in economics. And we also have been consistently in top ranking colleges of India as per the National Institutions Ranking Framework established by MHRD. And in the next year, we were again allotted National Resource Center for Human Rights, Environment and Ethics under the same Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya National Mission on Teachers and Teaching scheme of MHRD, Government of India. And we, on the Harvard model, we also started a School of Happiness under our Center for Ethics and Values in our college. And this year we are starting another honors course in environmental science. Now, Teaching Learning Center, Sir will shed more light on it. I will just give a brief introduction. So it was started in 2016. It is one of the organizing partners for this FTP under the Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya National Mission on Teachers and Teaching. And we have been conducting discipline-specific as well as interdisciplinary programs like 1-month faculty orientation induction program, FTPs ranging from FTPs and workshop ranging from 1 day to up to 2 weeks, as well as professional training programs for non-teaching staff. And also recently we have started some programs for students. And as Sir would guide, we are one of the best performing in this regard. And you can see that in offline and both online mode, also as Madhu Vijayam also pointed out, we have scaled up many-fold our endeavors, and a part of under the guidance of Sir, and also a part of it goes to our in-house technical team led by computer science faculty members Vipin Sir and Nikhil Sir. We will also thank them towards end. And this is just a tentative list because many programs are going on simultaneously, and still we are processing beneficiaries and certificates of other programs. Now we are led by our principal sir, who is also director of the Teaching Learning Center and our primary source of motivation, inspiration, and guidance in all our endeavors. Sir has done his MBA Finance and MA in International Management Studies, as well as PhD in PhD coursework and comprehensive examination from University of Texas and University of Austin in USA. Sir has also done PhD in management, so he's very close to our discipline from Sambalpur University in India. And Sir has MCom and MPhil in finance and accounting from University of Delhi. Sir has more than 40 years of experience, including 12 years in directly heading our institution since 2008 as principal. Sir has teaching and research interests in finance and investment. Now, a brief overview about the Department of Management Studies, which is organizing this mainly. So Department of Management Studies was also started in 2016 in Ramanujan College when we were allotted the Bachelor of Management Studies course of University of Delhi. And since then, in the same year, we also had the opportunity to become the host coordinating institution for admission to all other programs, BMS, BFIA, and BBE of all colleges of University of Delhi. And we envision to create leaders, managers, and entrepreneurs of tomorrow who can always remain agile and adapt to the contemporary business environment and needs. So at Department of Management Studies, just a glimpse of it, we look to create an enrichment spectrum. So we use innovative participant-centric teaching pedagogies involving, including role-based outcomes, including case studies, storytelling, group-based activities, peer-to-peer learning, flipped classroom, and we actively use ICT tools in assessment. Also, we have moved away from conventional assessments and we more focus on oral viva voce presentations, project works. We have organized multiple guest lectures, seminars, industrial and corporate visits, including to Coca-Cola, Mother Dairy, NSC, Decathlon, Yakult, and many more. We support our students in summer internship and placements, both at the department level and at the college level. We have also under Teaching Learning Center started minor research projects in which faculty members lead and they are joined by some students. And we are the only college in University of Delhi amongst 10 colleges offering BMS who provides option to students for having a graduate dissertation as in lieu of one paper in the final semester. We also recently, to develop skills of the students under management studies and IQAC, started a diploma course and conducted it on financial modeling. We also conduct faculty development programs and workshops in association with Teaching Learning Center for our discipline faculty and also other faculty. We also have conducted national and international conference. National conference was on leadership in organizations and international conference was on global fintech revolution. We also owe to society and conduct various outreach programs to schools, old age homes. We organize several management games and competitions, and students at our college have a unique advantage because they also benefit from 60 plus centers, cells, and societies beyond our department that is there in the college. Also, they benefit from several add-on and certificate diploma course that is there in our college. Some important landmarks. The first one I have already told. Our academic performance has been improving of students. We have focused on skill development, and we are very proud to say that our students have published research papers, including in Sri Ram College of Commerce Journal Business Analyst. It is a prestigious journal. So students have benefited from research projects and graduate dissertation that they are making. Some students have launched startups in education, healthcare, and hospitality sector. They are in various stages. Summer internship and final placements we have received at various organizations, including in Amazon, Aditya Birla, ONGC, SMC, Ernst and Young, several companies we have been able to give summer internship and final placement to students. Our students have also, after graduation, enrolled in higher studies in global institutions like INSEAD in France, Babson School, and in India in prestigious XLRI and several IIMs now. And another very big advantage and achievement that has direct implication for management students is that under leadership of our principal sir, our college entered into a MOU with MCI Austria, and we have a student and faculty exchange program through which directly management students and faculty members can benefit. So this is our department. It is led by K. Lata ma'am, and we have six other colleagues. Ma'am is associate professor and teacher in charge. So ma'am has done most of her education, BCom honors from Sri Ram College of Commerce, MCom from Sri Ram College of Commerce, and MPhil and PhD from University of Delhi Department of Commerce. Ma'am has over 32 years of teaching experience, and ma'am has interest in finance, investment, and statistics for teaching and research. Then we have Dr. Vibhash Kumar, who has done BCom honors and MCom from Delhi University, PhD in organizational behavior, again from Delhi University. Vibhash sir is also one of the pillars in Teaching Learning Center as assistant director, and is also the editor of Ramanujan International Journal of Business and Research. He has 9 years of experience and teaching and research interests primarily in organizational behavior and human resource management. Then we have Ms. Parul Yadav, who has done BCom honors and MCom again from Delhi University, and she is currently pursuing PhD in organizational behavior area. She has 7 years of experience and is involved. Her teaching and research interests are HR and OB. Then we have Mr. Prakhar Wadhwa with us as faculty. He has done BCom honors and MCom from University of Delhi. He has completed his MPhil recently last year, and he has teaching and research interest in accounting and also takes up quantitative techniques, and he also takes up skill-based IT tools for business papers for BMS students. He has an experience of about 7 years. Then we also have Ms. Ramya Jain. She has done again MPhil last year and has done BCom and MCom from Delhi University, and has teaching and research interest in primarily in accounting, also in finance, with an experience of about 6 years. Then this is me. So I have recently been awarded PhD from University of Delhi. I did my BCom honors and MCom from the same institution. I am also interested in investment and stock market, a bit of financial modeling and analytics also. And I have an experience of about 7 years. Then we have Dr. Anchal. She has done recently again completed her PhD in management from Kurukshetra University. She has done MBA in finance from NIT Kurukshetra and BCom honors from Sri Ram College of Commerce, Delhi University. She has teaching interests in marketing and finance and research interest in finance with a total experience of about 8 years. Now, regarding this faculty development program, I would like to say that this program envisions exploring the contemporary development and latest additions to the field of management education and management research. We have given special emphasis on interdisciplinary aspects that you can see also. So we have tried to connect from different paradigms. And just to give a quick overview, so ancient Indian wisdom and management, managing self and resilience among teachers, and teaching management through literature are some of the topics which Dr. C.S. Sharma, sir, a very senior faculty at Sri Ram College of Commerce and a well sought after resource person, he will be taking. We will be introducing him in the next session, the first technical session that we will have after this one. Then management communication will be taken by Professor Rakesh Kodwani, contemporary aspects of marketing management by Professor Gurjeet Kaur, cognitive engagement in online learning by our in-house faculty, Ms. Ramya Jain, qualitative research in management by Dr. Sunil Buddhiraja, writing effective research articles in management by our in-house faculty, Dr. Vibhas Kumar, and some aspects of management research through our software, which we will be doing over 3 days. This will be taken up by me, Dr. Arnav. We are also planning for 1 or 2 speakers in a valedictory session. We will confirm and share with our participants. Now, just last thing before we move on. So this is the glimpse of participants of this FTP. So we have around 230, it has crossed 230. About 40%, 45% of our participants hold PhD degree and over 80% are regular faculty members. We have participants ranging in we have wide range of designations. We have principals, vice principals, associate professors, assistant professors, including PGT commerce teachers and also some young research scholars as our participants of this FTP. And we primarily have participants from management and commerce discipline, but we also have a lot of participants from economics, humanities and social sciences, languages. Few participants are also there from statistics, mathematics and natural science disciplines. Also, there are various parent institutions. So many are from university affiliated or university uh, colleges, but some are from university departments and some are also from independent standalone business institutions. The geographical diversity of our participant is also very vivid. We have participants from 25 plus states and union territories of India, right from Jammu and Kashmir to Kerala and Tamil Nadu, and from Gujarat to Meghalaya and Assam. So we are looking forward for an enriching and interactive experience. And finally, before I invite our principal sir to give the welcome address, I would like to especially thank Dr. Nikhil and Dr. Vipin for technical support in various online programs and also their contribution in this program. Sir, over to you.
Thank you, Arnav, for exhaustive presentation. You have made my life simpler. Good morning and welcome to our dignitaries, both Professor Vij and Dhruv Trivedi ji. Also welcome to my team led by Dr. K. Lata and all of after that our very young colleague, and they are doing wonderful job. I can say so. The way today presentation was done, it is excellent on the part of young team. Our participants are very valuable assets for us because without them, we have no business to be here. And I can say that most of the time, whatever we launch, we get large number of participants. As Arnav said, that in Teaching Learning Center, in last 4 months, we have seized the opportunity of doing these online training programs. And our objective mainly is to keep ourselves engaged and to keep teachers engaged so that no negativity comes. And we are really very fortunate and glad that about 60,000 teachers are already enrolled in various programs, and 50,000 have already completed the program. On the other hand, in last 3 years, in about 30 programs, we could train only 3,000 teachers. So that is the power of technology, and online, I can say, is doing wonders. So once again, welcome to this 2-week online FDP on innovations in management, education, and research. Basically, it's a focused program on management, education, and research. That is why you can see the participants are not in large number, but otherwise 230 is a very good number in terms of management teachers or management education. Most of the sessions, will be divided into 2 parts. Some of them will be online, like we are doing it today, and rest will be on our EDX portal, which participants can access anytime at their leisure, and they can attempt their assignments, their work, which is important from the certification point of view. Most of the things about college and TLC has been explained by Arnav. The only thing I can say that this training part which is under the aegis of Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya National Mission for Teachers and Teaching. The Teaching Learning Center of Ramanujan College has outsmart every teaching and learning center in the country, because there are about 50 teaching learning centers, mostly with central universities, IITs, and bigger institutions. But in Delhi University, there are 3 colleges which are doing this. But the Ramanujan College during last 4 months has trained more than 50,000 teachers, which is an achievement, and even the Ministry of HRD has recognized this as an outstanding work. And this is basically, I owe everything to my young faculty, because they come up with new ideas, and then we implement as per the requirements of the need of our young teachers. Well, as regards management education, well, friends, I can say that there are various disciplines in management. The 2 experts are sitting with us. I'm not getting into that, but briefly, I can say that, when we undergo management education, either we specialize in the various areas like finance, marketing, human resource management, accounting, production management, operational management, and then today in systems also, because system has become part of management. Then psychological behavior, behavioral science, that is also part of management, economics, mathematics, statistics. And let me tell you, the management is basically a interdisciplinary education hub. And I can say that in our country, we unnecessarily try to create separation between management, commerce, economics. Basically, to my mind, it should be a school of business, and everything should be under that. And so that we are benefited with each and every discipline under this management teaching and research. Now, basically in this, the approach is very mixed. In this FDP, we will be teaching you some theory and then hands-on training, and the tools and techniques which will add you in teaching in the classroom and doing research of your own. And the various dimensions, new dimensions of research will also be discussed during the course of this program. Well, we are also we intend to create a knowledge sharing platform for researcher and academicians of management, so that we can exchange the ideas, and we can also publish in good research journals. As Arnav said, we have one journal in this area itself, which is a UGC care list journal, and there is a lot of demand of publication. We always receive more than 200 to 300 articles, out of which we select 10 or 12 for publication. So, basically what I'm trying to say is that management education in itself is not exclusively or domain of management expert. Everyone needs management education. I can say that even a political scientist, even a psychologist, even a philosophist, even a Hindi person, Sanskrit person need skills of management. And we also need those disciplines in order to become good managers. Like, I was fascinated with the organizers' 2 topics in the beginning: ancient Indian wisdom and management, and then teaching management through literature. Now, look at this. Let me go a little bit into, the ancient education system, or we can say our ancient education, hub, which India was at one point of time. All of you know that we were the educational capital of the world, and we have the best universities being set up in this country, and a lot of people, like these days we go to United States, used to come to India, whether from Japan, China, South Asian countries, for studying in our universities, which are known as Takshila, Nalanda, various mathematical universities. Then there were ashrams specialized for these education. There were some ashrams for science education, some ashrams for management education, and we can also study how those ashrams were being managed in ancient times, and we were doing the studies of almost all the subjects in those days. And what I'm trying to say, we were the leaders at that time. But our education system, after taking over by the Mughal rulers and the British rulers, that was kind of, they destroyed the system, and we had to, be on a stage through which we can lead now, because this COVID has given us a lot of opportunities. And if we can innovate, if we can develop our educational systems, our educational institutions to the level which we were, or to the modern demand through technology, probably we can again become leaders in the area of education. Similarly, the literature. Now, literature part is also extremely important, because no education is possible without the education of literature, because we have to connect each and everything with the literature. Now, even stock market predictions, we will have to go into the past of last 10 years, only then we can predict. So literature is extremely important for any education, whether it is management or any other part. Now, before because we have the experts, we would like to listen to them. But another important aspect I would like to say here is that the management experts, or the leaders, or today's corporate leaders, they need to have four important characteristics are important in management education. That is communication, creativity, collaboration, extremely important. We always look for collaboration from different institutions, and then critical thinking. So these are the four parameters which are extremely important for any management expert, or management education, or a researcher, because without critical thinking, without analyzing, without doing this, it is not possible. Today itself, I was reading in Times of India, and N. Narayan Murthy wrote a very good editorial, and he said that corporate India can learn much about leadership by just watching the matches of Mr. Dhoni, because he just retired. And now you can say that how he has related the management with his skills, because Dhoni was such a cricketer who is not only the leader, but a good player, good fielder, good wicket keeper. So all those qualities need to be observed by any leader in order to understand the management education, because we need to learn from our these experts, whether he's Mahatma Gandhi, or anyone who has done good in his field. I mean, there can be several players, not only in cricket but in other areas, like Fulera, Chand, in his area. So we all we need to learn from all this. Similarly, in research, the organizers have used R for this purpose, and I think R is a open source software, and it's a very powerful. The other day I was seeing the NDTV, even they were relating R to COVID. So most of the countries, they can predict through R the COVID infection. And what they said, though I'm not an expert in that area, that most of the advanced countries, they started with very high R. That is, Britain started with 2.8, but we started with 1.20. And Britain has gone down to 0.8, but right now we are at 1.05. Now, the meaning of this is basically that we need to keep R below 1 in order to be good in predicting this, in controlling this, pandemic. So with this, I'm sure that the participants will look into all the aspects, and they can do the meaningful research in the area of management by using these techniques, by using these softwares, and by using the literature, data analysis, and various new technologies in order to strengthen the management education. Once again, thank you very much, and welcome once again to our dignitaries and the participants. Thank you very much. Over to Arnav.
Thank you very much, sir, for your guiding words and perspectives from various point of views. And sir, you are yourself an expert in management, and it is a pleasure for us. Now we would like to invite our program director and teacher in charge. Ma'am is also bursar of the college and IQAC coordinator, Lata ma'am, to give her opening remarks regarding the FTP.
Yeah. Honorable Chief Guest, Professor Madhu Vij, Honorable Guest of Honor, Mr. Dhruv Trivedi, Principal Ramanujan College, Dr. S.P. Agarwal, fellow colleagues, and dear participants, a very good morning and a very warm welcome to ma'am and sir. Although we are a relatively young college, yet over the years, Ramanujan College has carved a niche for itself in the academic universe of India. This is, like Sir said, primarily because of the fact that the college has emerged as a hub where novel ideas, innovations, and desire to do things differently fervently throb at the heart of all activities. Pursuing the same ethos and practice, this faculty development program on innovations in management education and research is being organized by the Department of Management Studies. This FDP is visualized as a vehicle for introducing new approaches, vistas, and topics to the academia of the country at large in the areas of teaching, pedagogy, and research. The FDP addresses the teachers in the field of management specifically. It focuses on providing them an introduction to areas, I repeat, an introduction to areas which are yet to be dealt with in depth and widely by academic scholars and practitioners. This is also aimed at initiating the teachers of management into a process of reflection on how they could look at management from a new perspective and a different prism. And hence we have the innovative topics for the first week, like Sir has already mentioned, and Arnav has given a detail of the schedule that is in plan. We will be having the first week will be exclusively for the innovative ideas and the qualitative aspects of management. And the second week will be, of course, more research oriented. The program is, the idea is not to make the participant an expert, but to make her reflect, think, and consider how we need to treat our subject of management, which could be more fruitful for all stakeholders, teachers, students, scholars, researchers, and practitioners in the society at large. Now, before we move on, I would just like to also give a brief of the rules that we intend to have, especially to the participants, because if you have to be clear about the rules so that the participation and communication becomes comfortable. Participants, please note all these things, though we have posted it and we will be posting it in all platforms wherever necessary. Kindly make sure you enter the same email address as provided in Google form used for registration and the one that you access routinely. Make sure all the spellings are correct, because we often get back with such queries, where you have made mistakes. Please make sure to note the password. In case you forget it, it shall be, very difficult for us to rectify this kind of a situation. The daily assignments, quizzes, and activities have to be finished by the given deadline as indicated on the portal. Participants will have to score minimum required marks set for assignment, quizzes, and activities. Participants must attend all online sessions. I hope all of them are attending this live session of inauguration also. Feedback and other forms should be filled promptly. Filling up the daily feedback form is compulsory. We have to daily update the MHRD on these. Participants will have to ensure internet facility at their end. The organizers will not be responsible for any internet-related issues at the participants' end. The final test on the decided day is compulsory. We will soon announce about it, and no exemption shall be given for this. In case of any issues, please write a mail at bms@ramanujan.du.ac.in. I repeat, please write a mail for your queries at bms@ramanujan.du.ac.in. This is in your mails also. We will revert back to you as soon as possible. No other means of handling of queries will be entertained. It may be difficult for us to attend personally. It is compulsory to join the Telegram group because we keep posting our FAQs, schedule, and other related information on the Telegram. Before moving on to Arnav Kumar, I also wish the participants an enriching and enlightening 15 days ahead. Thank you, Arnav.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for clearly spelling out the ground rules for the FTP and also encouraging us to attend the sessions. And now I would like to welcome our guest of honor first. So let me share the screen. So Mr. Dhruva Trivedi is a renowned corporate trainer and industry expert. Sir has 45 plus years of experience in working experience of 15 plus years and consultancy of 32 plus years. Sir has done MA in PM and LW from prestigious Tata Institute of Social Sciences. Sir is a sociology honors graduate from Hindu College, University of Delhi. Sir has been involved in organizational capacity at various organizations as JK Corporation Limited, MP State Textile Corporation, Automobile Products of India, Electro Steel Castings Limited, Sandane International Corporation, where he was also head of HR and communications. He was also joint director of industries at MP State Textile Corporation. Sir has also been throughout associated with academia and has been conducting sessions and interacting with various B schools and including the IAMT Ghaziabad, JIMS Delhi, IILM Delhi, College of Business Studies, University of Delhi, IIPM Delhi, DPC Institute of Management, Modi Apollo International Institute at Western International University, USA, Skyline Business School, School of SW Social Work, I think in Aurangabad. And Sir has also 1 year experience in setting up a B school and running it as a center head. Sir has also consultancy and training experience with several renowned companies, including Ashok Leyland, AT&T Limited, Airtel, Chambal Fertilizers and Chemicals, Coca-Cola, DLF Industries, Electrolux, Golden Peacock, Honda, JK Dairy and Foods, and Oriental and Suzlon and TCS and Tata Energy Research Institute, Vavolin Communications, HCL, Visa Bank, and among many others. And Sir is also business head at Percon and training facilitator, certified trainer for team scorecard and team centered leadership. As you would have participants, as you would have already figured out, Sir's primary areas of interest are organizational behavior, organizational development, human resources, communication, international relations, and industrial psychology. So Sir, we are glad to have you with us. Welcome once again, and we would now like to hear from you. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Arnav. Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Agarwal, for inviting me over to this forum. Thank you, Dr. Lata, and all the organizers of this forum, organizers of this platform. And of course, a lot of thanks to the participants who are going to patiently listen to what I have to say. This is in advance that I have my submission to the participants. I hope you will be able to hear me patiently. Since the topic is all about innovation in management, education, and research, my intention of communicating further is more towards going a little backwards rather than going forward in terms of identifying what conceptual research we need to do, what new techniques we need to discover in management, etc., etc. So when I say backward, I humbly request all the faculty members and all the teachers who are teaching management that while they are teaching, they should also be mentoring each student. Now, when I say mentoring each student, it takes you to understand what fundamentals the students have. I unfortunately, or fortunately, you can say, I had a lot of opportunity of interacting with students in various colleges, management schools, and especially when I used to visit the B grade and C grade management schools, which is not the A grade management school that we usually refer to, like the XLRI or the IIMs. I usually found that the students were lacking in the fundamentals. So, taking the cue from what Dr. Agarwal just said, that it has to be an interdisciplinary approach. Management is nothing but approaching normal work with a scientific mind and a rational mind through an interdisciplinary approach. And this interdisciplinary approach means you have to have knowledge of history, you have to have knowledge of geography, you have to have knowledge of, you know, archaeology and everything that is possible under the sun. I'm reminded of Bal Gangadhar Tilak, who wrote this book called The Arctic Home of the Vedas. He has chosen, most of you probably know who have read the book, would know that he has chosen a very different technique of writing history. Most of the historians always go by whatever they have discovered through facts or their own research. But Tilak had the ability of approaching history through an interdisciplinary method. And that was, he had to delve into archaeology, he had to delve into geology, he had to delve into even astronomy to discover the real facts in history. So I'm just making that reference to make everyone understand that when we are talking about management, as very rightly quoted by Dr. Agarwal, that it has to be an interdisciplinary approach. Now, going back to what I was mentioning, that is, in my interactions when I discovered that a lot of children, a lot of students were missing on the fundamentals, I started doing my research. And when I started researching, I went to schools, I went to villages, I went to um, all the places all over the country. And wherever these students came from, I wanted to understand what the hinterland was like, where they came from. And believe me or not, that the school education, which is there up to, till the third standard or the fourth standard, probably each child goes through the primary discipline of school education or formal education. But thereafter, the period from the fourth standard to the eighth standard before he gets into the senior school or the pre-senior school, there's a lot of time available to the teachers, and that is where I think the teachers are confining themselves to the pedagogy that prescribes that you should go into the prescribed syllabus. So they do a lot of justice to the syllabus, maybe not. I do not know about that. That is not the debate I'm getting into. But what I'm trying to say is that many of these teachers do not get into anything beyond the syllabus. Now, since we are addressing a forum which is talking about the Teacher Learning Center, TLC, and we are also talking about management, innovation, and research, I think it is a very, very significant uh, point that we should look into, and we should see how this kind of education, the education which happens between the fourth standard and the pre-senior school, can be improved. My personal research, which I found was, that my discoveries were that these uh, students or the teachers in these categories from fourth standard to the pre-senior school, they lack the bandwidth which is required to give them the kind of education, give the students the kind of education that is required. I'm very glad that Dr. Agarwal mentioned about the history of education in India. And we've lost all that, very unfortunately, because of the British interventions and the foreign interventions. We've lost all that, but we are trying to recover. I'm glad that we are trying to recover now, whatever has been lost. But at the same time, my humble submission to all the teachers is that they should delve into the interdisciplinary approach in a very big way. So what I mean by saying that is that the bandwidth at the moment is confined to the terms of the pedagogy or the syllabus that is prescribed. If you are a passionate teacher, you would definitely go beyond the syllabus, and you would try to understand what each fact would relate to. Say, for example, when you're teaching physics and you're talking about Charles' law, Boyle's law, Faraday's law, and many of these laws that is prescribed to be taught, the students are learning all that. Great. But amazingly, none of the teachers, I'm sure, very few, maybe just a handful, you can just count them. Just a handful would be actually talking about Dr. Stephen Hawking. Now, when teaching physics, if you're not telling the students who's the greatest physicist on earth today, unfortunately, Dr. Hawkins is no more. But in the last few years, he was there. And I think none of the students, if you ask a student, he wouldn't know who Dr. Stephen Hawking is, a physics student. So this is just to give you an example. Likewise, in every subject, there are a lot of things that a student needs to know related to his subject, which goes beyond what is prescribed in the syllabus. So if the teacher, my submission once again is, if the teacher is passionate, if the teacher is really doing a lot of research or wants to do a lot of research to evolve the management education, he must also understand from what hinterland, what background the students are coming from. And therefore, in this perspective, I think a lot of plenty of mentoring needs to be done. So each teacher who's communicating with the students needs to be a mentor. So when you become a mentor, when you are actually going beyond the subject, beyond the topic that is being discussed, and anything related to those topics are also covered so that the background is well known. So my very simple understanding is I have worked on that project. I have submitted that project to the ministry also. Let's see how it works out. But I have submitted, this is a project which is called Pedagogue to Pathfinder. So pedagogue is a person who is stuck to the pedagogy. He's stuck to the syllabus and nothing beyond the syllabus. And Pathfinder is one who actually shows the way. So that is the topic of my project, and I'm trying to push it through the government circles also. Let's see how it works out, because if it is included, we have now a new education policy also. The new policy should be covering this also. I do not know how it can be tweaked. This is something which we have to discover. But Primarily, I think one very, very important point that I need to communicate to all the teachers here, all the faculty members here, that you need to talk about, you need to feel the passion. Not only talk about it, but you need to feel the passion when you're teaching. You need to increase the knowledge, the skills, the change the attitude also. So it is not only uh, increasing the knowledge, but if possible, as you know, very well stated by our Prime Minister, he's emphasized a lot on the skilling aspect. Not all of us may be very well versed in improving the skills, but at least we can guide them to the right people. We can tell them as to how these skills can be improved. So we are talking about the knowledge, improvement of the knowledge, improvement of the skills, and also building the right kind of attitude. Most of our problems, whether in the corporate world, whether in public behavior, whether in politics, or more, whether in, in any kind of forum, you'll find that the problems emanate from the improper attitude, improper approach. So I think a lot of work has to be done in attitudinal transformation. And that can be done only through constant mentoring. I'm also a part of the ATL, the the Atal mission for mentoring in the country. I'm part of that team also. But I'm mentoring the mentors there. So my humble submission and a repeated one is that each of us trainers, each of us teachers, each of us who's in the faculty needs to not only have the passion, but also have the passion to become a mentor. So, and when one becomes a mentor, the whole approach changes. You have a mission in front of you. You have to ensure that the student who you are addressing is actually transformed. So, unfortunately, as I mentioned earlier in the beginning of what I was talking about, is that the hinterland does not give them that support. The fundamentals of the students who are being addressed by the faculty is actually missing because their teachers are lacking the bandwidth that is required. Then each teacher has to increase his bandwidth. The knowledge should not be limited to a confined section. It should go beyond the subject. It should go to things which are related to the topic we are talking about. So that is my take on the program today, and I hope, my sincere and a very honest hope is that since I'm also advanced in age, let me confess that I'm not a young man. So, but I'm quite advanced in age, and I think I have done what I could, and I am still trying to do what I can for the education system in the country. But if each one of you takes that lead in transforming, in becoming a mentor, I think you'll do it, give an immense advantage to the whole nation. It is not only to management education, but you will provide that, that change, that transformation that is required by the nation. I think that's my submission. Thank you very much, Dr. Sumit, Professor Madhuvij, and Dr. Lata Arnab. With these words, I think I need to end whatever I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Very well said.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. You have given us a lot of, for the patients you asked, you have given us too much. You have given us an entire new philosophical perspective to approach teaching and learning in management discipline. I hope that all of us as teachers, as participants, we will take home that and try to bring the change that we foresee at our level, as you have pointed out. Now, before I introduce our chief guest, I would also like to tell the participants that we will, after chief guest ma'am, which as address, we would be taking up some queries. So now participants can begin writing their queries. If they have any queries, they can begin writing it. Now, to introduce Madhu Vij ma'am is really a pleasure. Ma'am has been coming to our college and ma'am has met us on multiple occasions. And really, ma'am, to, just to filter out anything from your profile was too difficult. So I will be taking few minutes to read all of it because it was almost impossible for me to decipher because each contribution of yours has been so vivid and so rich over the years. So today we have as chief guest Madhu Vij ma'am. Madhu Vij ma'am has done MCom, MPhil and PhD and her alma mater is University of Delhi. Ma'am has academic experience of 43 plus years. She started her career from LSR, Lady Shri Ram College in Delhi University, and since 1978 she has been at one of the premier and topmost business school. Everyone is aware of it, Faculty of Management Studies, University of Delhi. And ma'am has a professional and teaching interest in areas of international finance, risk management, banking and financial services, corporate finance and accounting. Ma'am has received the Alumni Excellence Award from Sri Ram College of Commerce, University of Delhi. Dr. Vij has participated and attended the Global Colloquium on Participant-Centric Learning at Harvard Business School, Boston, USA. Ma'am has been on the panel of judges for award of Prime Minister's Trophy for selecting the best steel plant for 2 years and has also been a member of ad hoc task force results framework document. Ma'am has been and continues to be independent director on multiple private limited companies. Ma'am has also been the director of Women's Studies and Development Center, University of Delhi for 1 year. Ma'am is actively involved in working on gender issues, has delivered special talks in this area, and has also worked on a project on microfinance and gender. Ma'am's publications are too many for me to count or list here, so I will be summarizing it. Ma'am has published several research papers in international and national journals of repute and has presented papers globally in the field of banking and finance. Ma'am has authored 4 books and co-authored 2 books. Ma'am is also actively involved in research, consultancy, and training for several leading public and private organizations in areas of project management, strategic financial management, case-based method of learning and teaching, and finance for managers of non-finance discipline. Ma'am has also completed a number of projects sanctioned by national bodies like UGC, RBI, ICSSR, SAIL, and Delhi University. She serves on the editorial board and is also a reviewer for several academic journals and national and international conferences. Ma'am, once again, it is a great pleasure for us to have you, and over to you, ma'am, for your remarks.
Um, Thank you. So let me also first start by thanking the college, which I've seen grow, and the growth path has been beyond anybody's imagination. So we use a word for the financial services sector, a roller coaster ride. I think this is what Ramanujan College also has seen in the last few years. And thank you to the principal and Dr. Lata, Dr. Pranav, and the entire team at your college, which has done tremendous work. Good morning to Professor Trivedi also, and I was listening to his views. And the best thing, I really appreciate about Dr. Agarwal's and Dr. Trivedi's views is, a complicated word like innovation has been kept simple. So the solutions are straightforward, the solutions are simple. And even before I proceed, I quite like Dr. Agarwal's comment when he says just 230 participants. 230 is a big number, but I think probably you are used to 500 plus, in this kind of a mode. So, honestly, it's, the kind of MDPs you are having, and I've been, a part of a lot many, and I find that all of them are completely informative and they are innovative. So, I would start by saying that, what is innovation in management education? Innovation in management education is about what students can do at the end of the program. It's about being connected to the market. So if you look at these two parameters, if I just emphasize on these two, you're looking at the market, you're looking at what your students can do at the end of the program. I think that is what innovation is. It's not about fancy words. It's not about fancy processes. So you could list a lot of these words. Yes, they are needed, they are required, but it's about touching the hearts of our students. And I think that is the key takeaway for this word, innovation in management education. And very rightly, both the speakers have said, what Professor Agarwal also said in the beginning, and what Dr. Trivedi is also saying is, it's a kind of a seamless flow. And that is what you need to look at innovations in management. Management is simply about doing things in the most efficient manner. Whatever way you do it, it really doesn't matter. So I would say that, in today's context, keeping in view the kind of difficult times we are living, you need to connect with the real life scenario. That is what will, or what would help us in understanding the true meaning of innovations in management. Yes, there are details like what has your pedagogy been, uh, what has been your delivery, what has been the teaching style, how often have you revised it, how often have you re-looked at it. Now, all these are important questions which I'm sure all teachers are looking at in today's context. In fact, one of the times when you could see, okay, this is what I had studied, and this is what I would impart to my students. Not really. You need to constantly upgrade and relook at, or I would say, reposition yourself. And I think that is, the base from where I would like to start, this little interactive lecture here. In fact, if you look at the kind of transformation which education has been undergoing in the last few years, even if a few months back, if somebody had told us, switch to digital, there will be only virtual classrooms, none of us would have thought of this as an acceptable solution. But in today's context, online mode, online delivery, all that is a normal and a natural part of our communication. So I would say that in today's context, the management education, to be successful, needs to be proactive and needs to experiment. And there is one word which I would like to also add here, is to take risk. In fact, maybe at the end of my session, I would also like to give this advice to Professor Agarwal. You should have a small MDP on risk management. The way after companies Act 2030, enterprise risk management has become an important part of all organizations. It's a key takeaway. It's a key, like a process. So there are risk management committees. So it's not about, the whole concept here has undergone a change. And the traditional concept of risk earlier was you are going to look at risk in silos. So the production department looks at risk, the OB department looks at risk, the finance department looks at risk. Each one of us looks at risk in the context of our own department. No more now. You need to look at risk in a holistic manner. And I do remember way back, and that was about, I think, sometime in 2015, we did a program on enterprise risk management for an IRCTC. In fact, that was the time the Companies Act had just come. And, it's about changing the mindset, changing the way we look at the problems. And that is something which, is, I would say, looking at the market, looking at the demand for the market, looking at what is the requirement. So as a business school, ultimately we are market linked. So we look at the kind of jobs the organizations are requiring. And that is how, we innovate, we look at our curriculum, we look at our style, and whatever is required, whether it's a complete overhaul or a partial overhaul, that is, would be our focus. Let me also mention another word here which comes to my mind when we talk of innovation, and that is about design thinking. Design thinking, like I remember Professor Agarwal was mentioning about creative thinking, critical thinking, absolutely a must. Adding on to that list, I would say design thinking is also something which has come up. It's not a new concept as such. So earlier in the 1980s, we were looking at this concept from the manufacturing sector. And it was all about total quality management. And if you look at that point of time, companies, more so in the manufacturing sector, who went in for total quality management, the kind of revenues, the kind of costs, I mean, the whole round, it was a complete overall kind of a change for their organizations, which resulted in revenues, if I were to measure as a finance professor, but otherwise an all-round improvement, I would say. But in today's context, and that's been for the last 3 or 4 years, design thinking is completely, I would say, to give you a little one-liner, it is about looking at things differently. So it's not about looking at the problem. Design thinking is looking at the solution. So how do you, I would say, re-look at the solution? And how would you do things differently? Let me give you an example here. So let's talk of the financial services sector. The financial services sector has been actually going for a roller coaster ride. Everything has undergone a change. More so with the kind of threats we have been witnessing in NBFCs and in the banking sector and so on and so forth. Now, ATMs, is a simple solution to a lot of issues you face. So similarly, for design thinking, you could think of various alternatives of, making the whole process seamless. Another requirement, or another application of this, which has specifically come up after the pandemic, is shortening of the supply chain cycle. There has been no way, unless you shorten the supply chain life cycle, you will not be able to survive. So it is in this sense that, I would focus a little more on the design thinking part of it and help the management schools also to understand that this is, or this should touch all areas of management. Cross-functional thinking, has been emphasized by both Professor Agarwal and Dr. Professor Trivedi also. I think the participants and each one of us realizes the importance of cross-functional, both in terms of curriculum and both also in terms of delivery. So I still remember way back when I started teaching at FMS, the engineers would really not specialize in finance. They would go in for maybe marketing or other options. But for the last 10 years, I find that technology and finance, Professor Dr. Agarwal was mentioning about fintech. That's precisely what is the new focus. So I find all, our good engineers would go in for finance. And that is where, you look for modeling, finding out solutions, predictive solutions, whatever way you would, understand this as. So one more logic for cross-functional. Why do we, or why cross-functional has become all the more basic or all the more, all over. It's become a key innovation. The basic reason which we understand or which we need to understand for this is the whole concept and idea is based on the fact that business problems are rarely one dimensional. So if business problems are rarely one dimensional, then how can you only look at one kind of functional area? So you also need to be multi-dimensional, multi-area specialist. And that is, I would say the bottom line for this whole thinking of cross-functional being at our, very base. Then I find, and yes, and another reason, and again, the pandemic has told us that we are completely living in a globalized, interconnected world. What happens in one part of the world goes to the other part. So, the numbers which Professor Agarwal was mentioning. So, if we are completely interconnected, then our whole studying has to also be cross-functional. In fact, taking a cue from this, the kind of new innovations which we now talk about, whether it's cloud technology or whether it's artificial intelligence, all of them have a role to play. Because let's say you talk about transferring credits, all that becomes very easy with these new techniques. You talk about students taking up a course in some other international university. Again, it becomes a little more seamless with these kinds of technology. Or, when you talk about, let's say, privacy issue, let's say, you talk about, what should I say, the learning management system, or the transferring of the grades, or the authenticity of the grades. The fact that the grades are accurate. Nobody has tampered with the grades. So you have the blockchain technology for this. Now, all this is going to be seamless. In fact, there is a word which has been coined, when they talk of artificial intelligence, you have the robotics. And actually what the robotics are also trying to do is you're integrating different courses into the latest trends of the 21st century. And we are introducing robotics especially for, they've coined the word STEM, which is cross-functional, wherein S stands for science, T stands for technology, E stands for engineering, and M stands for maths. And that's how you do prediction. So let me also talk about the historical data being used for prediction. A lot is being said because we talk about big data, wherein we have a lot of data which has tremendous predictive power. But there are concerns about the accuracy and the authenticity of this data. And that is also which we need to keep in mind before we plot a linear trend which says, okay, this is the kind of trend which will continue. So in today's context, let me say all innovations, as has been mentioned by everybody till now, need to be adaptable, need to be flexible, need to be creative. You have to be technology savvy. The critical thinking part is in any case very important. And then about, all the institutions, all the educational institutions, the biggest issue we are facing is about conducting online exams. How to ensure the facial recognition, how to ensure, that the exams are seamless. They are, conducted with the same kind of sanctity which we were doing otherwise. Uh, you know, Way back in 2010, the global financial crisis, we learned a lot from the global financial crisis. Most of the B schools restructured, we looked at the curriculum. In fact, even now, I would say the current pandemic, and I was reading this somewhere and I was quite fascinated by this term. It says creative pandemic. And what is the creative pandemic? The creativity is in re-looking, repositioning, and reset. So, what they are saying about the whole, the pandemic also. You don't have to restart. You have to reset. Okay, so let me also touch on, and since the title here was, let me just read, Innovations in Management, Education and Research. Now, research is something which is very close to all our hearts. And as professors, as teachers, and as guides, let me just briefly talk a little about the research which happens and the kind of guidance one could give, in terms of our experience. And I find you have a session also on the qualitative dimensions in research. I think, Professor Agarwal, you should have more of sessions on qualitative dimensions, because every time I find my research scholars, they're completely doing everything program based. So PLSEM generates 10 diagrams and 10 pictures and 10 chart flows. This is what you get as result. Please don't give us what the software has done. We would want you to explain, rather than significant at 5%, significant at 10%, and significant at 1%. No. But qualitative dimensions in research, I think it's important to understand how to interpret the data. A lot of my research, so what I'm just going to say for the next 2-3 minutes is based on my experiences with my research scholars. A lot of the research scholars always try and find out, when should we write the introduction? In my opinion, the introduction should be written first, but finished last. Because this is true more so for a research article. Because you're going to give the flavor of your entire work in the article. So it has to mention about what have been your conclusions, what has been your learnings, what have been the application, what have been the policy understanding from your work. Then the other understanding, in fact, the other suggestion I would have is that, in today's context, most of the good articles, because you do also talk about publications in good journal, you should look at both primary and secondary data. It's an absolute must. Some kind of questionnaire analysis, some kind of qualitative, whether it's a case study analysis, gives a lot of authenticity to your work, gives a lot of weightage to your work, gives a lot of clarity to your work. So I think you should have a lot of questionnaire work, whether you do 10, questionnaires, you do a focus group interview, you do a mass scale kind of a thing, you do collect data. I leave it to the scholars. But I think it's important to understand the whole process about preparing a questionnaire. And, when it comes to the questionnaire preparation, let me tell the participants that the genesis of the questionnaire is the review of literature. So if your guide tells you to do review of literature for 6 months, please do it. That will save you all the heartburns later. That will help you prepare your questionnaire well. That will help you to, identify studies which are supporting your work or are refuting your work. Then I'm sure each one of our scholars understand, and you have done a lot of programs on this, on coding, and you have a hands-on exercise which Dr. Arnav is going to be very good at. Uh, uh, one one other what should I say, I don't want to always call it an advice, but I would say, when you write a research paper, uh, and let us say you get from the reviewers that you need to revise, so please remember that a request for revision is good news. A request for revision is good news. It says that your paper is on the right track. So please don't get disheartened with this whole thing about why should I revise the paper? And, I've written such a good paper. All of us need, in fact, please understand that all of us at whatever levels we are, each one of us has to revise our paper 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times, whatever is the number. So I think let me stop here, but also congratulate Dr. Arnav, Dr. Lata, and Dr. Agarwal for the kind of, these MDPs they are organizing under the Teaching Learning Center. The building has come up beautifully. Fortunately, I've seen the new building also. And I can only say one thing. God give you the strength. God give your team all the, the strength and, blessings to keep up the good work you are doing in the current scenario, because more so than any other scenario, it's important to keep busy in the current scenario. All good wishes for always, and do great work.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you very much, ma'am, for all the nice words. And I'm sure that both of you, you are also living nearby, and Dhruv Trivedi is also next door to us. So probably you can vouch our work much, than anybody else. And Arnav, please go ahead with some questions. Then I will speak for 2 minutes. Okay.
Sure, sir. Thank you, ma'am. As young researchers, young teachers in management discipline, you have given us from where Dhruv sir started, you have taken over, and you have given us practical perspectives, both as researchers and as management teachers. Sir and ma'am, actually, we in fact have no questions, just one question, which I think Lata ma'am can address probably. Uh, Otherwise, we don't have questions. Participants are only, resonating what Dhruv sir and Madhu Vij ma'am has said. They are resonating it, they are imbibing it and presenting in their own words. That's what we are getting. And perhaps our communication has also been very clear. So, ma'am, there is one question that we are having online classes also during this time. So how we can manage with the course so that and if what is the mode of the program so that both things can be managed simultaneously.
We have posted the schedule, the first week schedule on the Telegram group, and we will be sending you also the rest of the program. And we are aware that most of the classes have started in some areas, in some regions. The proper classes have started, and some are continuing with online classes. Like us, for example, we are also into online classes now. So keeping that in mind, we have kept most of the live sessions in the afternoon, some at 4 o'clock, mostly at 4 o'clock, some at 5 o'clock. So I don't think it will be a big issue in attending classes in the afternoon. And having said that, we will also have the recording of these live sessions on your portal. So some of the participants who will miss those live sessions can actually go back and see the video recording of the live sessions. But still, I would request all the participants to attend the live sessions, because the query and the the problems and things that they want to ask to the resource person can be done only on live platforms. If you watch the video and then you are attempting your quiz and assignments, it may be a difficult proposition. So that is why I request all the participants to kindly attend all the, we have tried our best to keep the sessions in the afternoon. One or two resource persons who were not available in the afternoon, only their sessions are there in the morning time, in the forenoon. So this is my request.
Lataji, you can have some sessions on weekends also, if it is possible.
So we have Arnav's introductory session to R during the weekend. And am I right, Arnav? It is, I think it is.
Yes, ma'am. Earlier we planned for Monday, but we preponed it to Sunday so that more teachers.
Yeah.
Very good.
So that
So,
introduction part is done on Sunday, and then the hands-on sessions we will have during the evening sessions. And moreover, I would also like to tell Madhu Vij ma'am that 230 looks like a small number for us, because recently we were winding up our FIP with almost 6,276 participants. So that's the reason why 230 looks smaller to us. But then we will have more personal touch here. In the last faculty induction program, we had 6,276 registrations. Thank you, ma'am. And over to Arnav.
Thank you, Lataji. And I believe, all the participants got their answer, that we will try our best to be doing it either in the afternoon or on weekends. And then it will be portal based. And then you can see live on YouTube also. And you can see the recording on YouTube. We will send you the link, as Dr. Lata said. Once again, thank you to both the speakers, our guest of honor, Dhruv Trivedi ji, and our chief guest, Professor Madhu Vij. And it has, today it's just a coincidence that both of them are very nearby to us, and they knew the college very well. Dhruv ji started with very good, notion that let us mentor the students, because mentoring is the key today. And mentoring really does not mean that we should do whatever is in the syllabus. It needs wholesome approach. It needs life skills. Very, very, very well said, sir. And though your study is on school education, but it is very relevant on each and every education, whether it is in school or higher education. And then the attitude you talked about, I think wonderful idea, because most of us are facing the problems because of our attitude. And if we can simplify that, I think things will be much easier. As we do in this institution, we do not have any kind of attitude. We are amicable to anyone. We listen to our youngsters. We encourage their ideas, and we go by whatever is best, and whatever our inner heart says, that accordingly we go, and we try our best to mentor our students also. We are working, IQAC is working very closely in this area, mentoring of students, which you said, and which is a very good project to take up. And we would like to be part of that project, in the sense that whatever is the outcome, please be shared with us, so that we can implement that as in this institution, because we are always very eager to learn the new things and experiment the new things from this institution. And you also talked about the bandwidth of the teacher, which is very, very important, because we need to broaden our horizon, because unless until we do that, we will always be stuck in that I am a management expert, I am a political scientist, I am a sociologist, I am a psychologist. Really, it doesn't work. We have to be multi-dimensional. As Professor Madhu Vij said, that she started with this, that basically transforming the management education. And unless until we are multidimensional, we cannot transform the management education. And she very rightly said that we should have something on risk management. And I'm sure, ma'am, I will request my organizers that if we can find out time, we will request you itself that you can hold one session on risk management, which is relating to the enterprise rather than on a particular discipline. And similarly, you very well talked about design thinking, which is a new thing. I have learned a lot. For me, design thinking is very, very important, because we need to look to the things differently. As we have been doing in this COVID, we thought of doing something differently. And then we are now implementing and learning more and more that how should we have our sessions, whether we should have on portal itself, whether we should have live sessions only, or mix of these two. So that is what we have been looking at, and probably things will evolve. And as you yourself said, that management education will evolve with this new kind of virtual teaching, because management education again is a hand-based or hands-on training, and it's a case-based study, how we can communicate our ideas through virtual platform or through this online teaching. We will all have to learn, and this is because of this COVID that we are devising new and new things. And then you also said about the cross-functional, cross-functional in the sense that we need to, integrate the various areas in order to be effective in management education. And then you talked about several new technologies, and very important, I always tell my teachers and students that let us introduce the concept of these new technologies. And you will be glad to know that we have a center for robotics, we have center for blockchain technology, we have filed a patent in the area of blockchain technology, and we are issuing certificates to our participants on blockchain technology, which is very, very foolproof, as you said. So, and you also talked about the qualitative research, which probably I will again request my organizers that we can have more sessions on qualitative research, so that our listeners, our participants can be benefit. Once again, thank you very much to both the dignitaries, and thank you very much to the organizing team for doing such a wonderful job. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All the best.
Ma'am, sir, there are just one or two very interesting questions, if you permit, or we are exceeding time, ma'am.
No, go ahead. With the permission of both the.
Yeah, of course.
Sure.
Okay. Ma'am, it is, I think, ma'am and sir, Dhruv sir and Madhubij ma'am, it is for you. So one is, what is the prospect of, maybe this one ma'am can take, what is the prospect of interdisciplinary research in today's scenario? And I will also tell the second question. What do we require in today's time? Domain specialists or cross-functional generalists in management?
So you want me to talk about first the
Interdisciplinary research, ma'am.
See, interdisciplinary is becoming important because all the functional areas are related. And it's very difficult to say that I'm a specialist in finance if I don't have the basic knowledge of marketing. I always give an example of this, when I teach my students about knowing the cost of a product, because if I'm in the marketing domain and somebody tells me that the cost of a product is, let's say, 100 rupees, and suppose the market is not good, how do you ensure about rationalizing this cost? So, and at the same time, if I'm in the production, need to understand the issues of marketing. So I would say, this whole thinking, which I was talking about earlier, was also about enterprise risk management, which talks about looking at strategy. Now when you say strategic thinking, it's about finance, it's about production, it's about operations, it's about HR. So I would say, that cross-functional is required because, as I said in my lecture also, business problems also need, they need a refocus. They are not one dimensional. They are also, having more than one issues at the same time. So in today's context, let me tell you, it's not only about production, it's also about distribution. It's also about efficient distribution. It's about also, how to reach the consumers. So I would say cross-functional in terms of widening your scope is one. At the same time, it's a very, I would say, a very delicate balance you need to maintain. At the same time, there has to be, some kind of specialization. So if you talk about medical, in the medicine area, you do have super specialization also. So even in management, there are some areas which are super specialized. It's a very delicate balance, I would say. But my take on this question would be that you have to start with one base and then expand your horizon. But if I'm talking of, let's say, an MBA or a doctoral work, I would really appreciate if it's a little more cross-functional. To give you one more example here, we have an area called behavioral finance. What it really means is that finance people were supposed to be very, very, only accounting oriented or only numbers oriented. But with the behavioral issues, we realize that what Dr. Trivedi is also mentioning, that you need to look at the softer skills. You need to look at, how, what are the leadership skills. And let me also give you another example, which has just come to my mind. This COVID issue, we are talking of a lot of measures, but you know what is different between COVID and World War II? In both the cases, you are fighting an enemy. But in World War II, you knew who your enemy was. In COVID, we don't know who our enemy is. And the second thing is, why did we have such a massive lockdown? Because COVID involves human beings. It's humans which are involved. So I would just say that thin line, balancing is difficult, but uh, have multidisciplinary approach to succeed in today's environment. That is what it is. We could hear to Trivedi's views also on this.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Sir, your comments, then we can wind up.
I think it's been wonderfully described by Professor Wage. But I would like to add only one point here that, looking at the um, things from the practical point of view, well, the work situation, I'm not primarily an academician, so I will not be able to express my views in such a structured manner as Professor Vij has. But from the work point of view, I think what is important is the goal and the primary role to achieve that goal or the problem. Even a problem can be a goal. Solving the problem can be a goal. So the primary role has to be played by the functionary. Say it's a finance problem, or if it's a production problem, or it's an HR problem. The primary role has to be played by the HR or the production or the finance person. But when we are talking about interdisciplinary approach, we are talking about the production person or the HR person or the finance person being aware of what are the HR related issues or what are the production related issues. If it's a finance person, or the HR person should know what are the finance related issues, what are the production related issues, if a certain problem is being addressed. So when we're talking about interdisciplinary approach, it has to be, the primary role has to be fixed by one person at one functionary. But he has to take or she has to take the assistance of other functionaries as well, or emerge with ideas from the other functions which he or she knows already. The knowledge that he or she has will be best addressed, because then the problem will be best addressed. Either he or she does it himself or herself, or he or she takes the assistance of the other. So that is the importance of interdisciplinary approach. In preparing a management student for the interdisciplinary approach for work, it is better that he is equipped with all this kind of an approach even before he goes to the place of work. So that's what Professor Vij is referring to, that the interdisciplinary approach, the research, the understanding, the knowledge has to be imbibed from all the different functions, all the different areas. But when one goes to the place of work, then I think it is at certain places he or she will have to take the assistance of the other functionaries as well, because you cannot have everything with you. So you may not have specialized knowledge of production when you are an HR person, or you may not have specialized knowledge of finance when you are a production person. So he will have to, at one stage, he or she will have to take the assistance of the other functionaries. But the point here is, Dr. Arnav, on your question, I want to make one single point. Here, I think, as Dr. Vij was mentioning, that people tend to work in silos. So even in the place of work, in organizations, people tend to work in silos. So there's a lot of ego. Oh my God, this is my area. So why should I take the help of anyone else? But little does he know, little does she know, that ego has no place in the world in the future. It is he or she will have to take the assistance of others. He will or she will have to take the knowledge from other domains as well. That is my view.
Thank you so much, sir and ma'am, for your insight on two very important things, interdisciplinary research and the never-ending debate of functional specialists versus cross-functional generalists. But yeah, I think that you have made it amply clear. Now, participants, our next live session is about to begin, and our resource person, Dr. Shreya Sharma, sir, has already joined and is waiting, so we will not cause any further delay. But I'm also happy that all questions have been answered very well. And there was one question on interpretation of results. We will take it up during quantitative sessions on research later. So without further ado, let me first inform the participants that the next session on Ancient Indian Wisdom and Management is going to immediately start on the same platform. So don't go anywhere. And now I would like to invite Dr. Vibhas to give the final vote of thanks.
Thank you, Arnav. I hope all of you can listen to me. Honorable Professor Madhu Vij, respected Mr. Dhruva Trivedi, Dr. S.P. Agarwal, Principal Ramanujan College, Dr. K. Lata, the Program Director, my departmental colleagues, and our most valued participants. It is my privilege to have been asked to propose a vote of thanks on this occasion. I, Dr. Vibhash Kumar, on behalf of the Department of Management Studies and Teaching Learning Center, Ramanujan College, and my own behalf, extend a very hearty vote of thanks to all speakers for gracing us and sharing with us your findings and opinions today. I must mention a deep sense of appreciation for Professor Madhu Vij for a lucid explanation of innovation in management studies and also providing an insight on risk management. Further, we are grateful to Honorable Mr. Dhruva Trivedi for demonstrating and stressing on the fundamentals and baselines of management. I must express our sincere thanks to Dr. S.P. Agarwal for providing encouragement to the organizing team throughout and for giving an excellent coverage to the Teaching Learning Center programs that we have been conducting since the past 3.5 years. I also wish to express my gratitude to Dr. K. Lata, the program director, for providing the scope and the rules of this FDP program and guiding us in the conceptualization and execution of the program. I'm also grateful to you, Dr. Arnav Kumar, for your lucid and detailed presentation about the Department of Management Studies, Ramanujan College, and the previous TLC programs. I also thank you for helping in the ideation of the program. Now I would like to thank and acknowledge my heartfelt gratitude to the resource persons of this program, Professor C.S. Sharma, who is the Senior Distinguished Faculty Member from Shri Ram College of Commerce, Professor Rakesh Godwani, who is the founder of School of Meaningful Experiences, Professor Gurjeet Kaur from the University of Jammu, erstwhile she was working in IIM Amritsar, Dr. Sunil Buddhiraja, Associate Professor from Symbiosis University, Pune, for accepting our invitation and providing their valuable expertise. I'm also thankful to our in-house resource persons, Dr. Arnab Kumar and Ms. Ramya Jain, for bringing their knowledge to the aid of this program. A program like this cannot happen overnight. The wheels start rolling weeks ago. It requires planning and a bird's eye for details. We have been fortunate enough to be backed by a team of very motivated and dedicated colleagues of Ramanujan College who know their job and are result-oriented. I extend my thanks to Dr. Nikhil Rajput and Mr. Vipin Rathi for providing us all the technical support in hosting the Open edX platform. I would also like to thank Ms. Parul Yadav in looking after all the aspects of FGP in the most efficient manner. I take this opportunity to thank Dr. Anchal Singh and Ms. Ramya Jain for the efficient email management and the portal management. I want to thank Mr. Prakhar Wadhwa for looking into the registration process of the program. I would also like to take this opportunity to place on record our hearty thanks to Mr. Anil for relentlessly editing the video resources and producing the same. I cannot thank everyone enough for their involvement and the willingness to take on the completion of tasks beyond their comfort zones. And finally, I now take this opportunity to thank all the participants of the program for joining us. I'm sure we'll have a learning experience throughout the program. And I thank you everyone for being with us this morning. It was a great pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you once again, Professor Madhu Vij, Dhruv ji. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, everyone. Vibhas, sir, if you can make our resource person, also C.S. Sharma, sir, the co-host, so he can start.
Yeah, I'll do that. Done.
Welcome, sir. Welcome.
Good
We
afternoon.
sincerely
Good afternoon,
apologize
everyone.
for slight delay.
No problem. Good afternoon, everyone. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yes,
Echo
sir.
is
Yes, sir.
audible
You're
clearly?
audible, but there is slight echo. I think other teachers can confirm.
Yes. Is the echo over or
now is it all?
is it all right?
It is all right now.
Now is it all? It is all right, sir. Dear participants, we are now beginning with the first live session, and we have with us Dr. Shia Sharma, who is a renowned faculty. Let me introduce sir first, and then sir can commence with his session. So Dr. Chandrasekhar Sharma is a distinguished educator with broad experience in India and overseas in teaching, program development, including enriched digital content, institution building, financial performance, and business development. Sir is an author of 11 books, 41 research papers. I'm sure this number is growing. It has this slightly old data with publication on topics like fuzzy financial ratios, mergers and acquisitions, servant leadership, spirituality and green purchasing intentions, default probability, trust. Sir has acted in consultative capacity also to corporations, renowned institutions of higher learning, and is a highly sought after speaker, notably in research methodology, human behavior, and finance. This we all at Ramanujan can personally vouch for because we have hosted Sir and we have received tremendous response and demand. And we are fortunate that Sir has given time for this FTP also. Sir is currently an associate professor at Sri Ram College of Commerce. Earlier, he was also a director. He was also holding the position of director at Maharaja Agrasen Institute of Management Studies and also at JRE Group of Institutions. He has conducted numerous workshops and training programs at institutions like Punjab Police Academy, Ramanujan College, NHPC, Tata Institute of Social Sciences, Mumbai, CPDHE, Delhi University, academic staff colleges, MDU Rohtak, Manav Rachna University, National Academic for Training and Research in Social Security, Government of India, and many, many other organizations. Sir, we are really grateful to have you with us. And sir, participants, I can tell you that the kind of depth and diversity that Sir possesses in knowledge, Sir could be the only appropriate person for taking up such challenging topics. And over to you, Sir, with our best wishes. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everyone. The topic that we have today with us is ancient Indian wisdom and management. Am I visible now, Arnab?
Yes, sir, you are visible, sir.
Okay, very fine. So this is a topic because, the FDP, this faculty development program is being organized by management department, and management is a very important discipline currently, because management as a discipline is important because it helps us in utilization of resources in a very, very appropriate manner. That is one reason why it is so. And we have to now, it is my belief that we have to now look for a different approach to management in India. Actually, the field of management, as we say, you all are teachers of management, and therefore you would be knowing this. We say that Frederick W. Taylor and is essentially the father of management, because in 1910 he came up with his book Scientific Management, and that particular book played a very important role in initiating the process, the management of processes in the industrial enterprises. And after that, it was the work that was done by Roethlisberger and others that the humanistic dimensions to management were added. And after World War II, management as a discipline caught up the imagination of the entire world. And in India, in 1965, we started with Indian Institute of Management at Ahmedabad, and the field of that faculty of management was set up in Delhi, and practically every university started setting up faculties of management. And today, management is taught practically in all universities of the country and in the world also. Now, as far as we are concerned here in India, we have been teaching this management on the basis of whatever models are coming from the West. Whether it is in the field of finance, or it is in the field of human behavior, or it is in the field of personnel management, or in the field of marketing, essentially, the models are coming from the West. Research is being done on those very models only. And what we talk of as the original research in India here, that original research also is essentially an extension of what has been developed in the West. So there is a question, that there is an issue that has now become popular, that should India continue to work on the continue to tread on the same path? Should we continue to teach management on the basis of the models that are propagated, developed in the West, or we should do something different? Now, technically speaking, if we say, not even technically, generally speaking, if we say, Indians are different people. We are different in the sense that our customs, practices, way of thinking, our ethics, all these are very different from those of the West. And that is because of the philosophical underpinnings that we have in our country. The philosophical underpinnings of life in India are very, very different from the philosophical underpinnings of the life in the West. But in spite of that, we are only teaching, only practicing those models of management which we are borrowing from the West. I think, therefore, that the topic that has been selected by the organizers of faculty development program, that we should look at ancient Indian wisdom for management education. This is a very timely thing. The reason is that if we have to look at management teaching, management practice, and management research from India's point of view, then it is very necessary that we look to our own roots. We first understand what we stand for, what is it that we stand for philosophically. And on that basis, we can direct our research, direct our teaching in that particular direction. So from this point of view, you see the Western paradigm that we are following, that Western paradigm needs to be, if not rejected, needs to be modified in the light of an Indian paradigm. Because I can say one thing, let us understand one thing very clearly, that Western paradigm is based on their own philosophy, their own philosophical standpoint, which is embedded in their culture. And Indian paradigm is embedded in our own culture, and it comes from our own philosophical standpoint. One difference, let us look at, for example, in the West, the thinking is that there are no two lives. There is no rebirth. And we in India think that we have, or in Indian philosophy is that there is a rebirth. Now, this itself brings about a tremendous difference in our attitude, in the way, in the perspective in which we look at the life in general. Not to talk of just the managing resources in a business enterprise only. Now, see, for example, it can be presented in this way, that when we say there is only one life, then the denominator of all our achievement is one. Whatever we accomplish, that is only in one life. But if we say we have multiple lives, then denominator of our achievement will become infinity. And once you divide something by infinity, what is the result? It is zero. So whatever you may accomplish, whatever you may achieve, whatever you may accumulate, whatever you may have with you, that essentially is actually taken as just a zero, just nothing. On the other hand, for a Westerner, whatever one accomplishing, it is very, very meaningful. Here, it is not meaningful. So you will find in your discussions, when you have culturally, you will find in your discussions as Indians that whatever somebody may achieve, at the end you say, okay, it doesn't matter. It is fine. Fine. If they've done it, it is okay. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Nothing matters. So this is the thing that is an inherent part of Indian philosophical standpoint. Now you can see the difference between the two. I shall elaborate on this as I proceed in the lecture. But just to introduce the idea to you, I have simply said that the perspective in the West, perspective in India, regarding looking at the phenomena, looking at things is very, very different. Therefore, we need an entirely different approach, not only in the classroom for teaching management, but also for practicing it in the real world. So this is one aspect, my dear friends. So what do we do? How do we go about it? Now here, before I actually start talking about different aspects, I shall like to start on a very small note. The note is taking cue from the topic. The topic is ancient Indian wisdom and management. Now, what do we mean by the word wisdom? This is a very important thing. What do we mean by wisdom? Actually, wisdom is a certain level of knowledge. You see, if you look at the levels of knowledge, there are diverse levels of knowledge. One level of knowledge, at the lowest level, we will say, are the facts. Facts are, you can say, numerical numbers, or facts can be precisely measurable, describable events that take place in life. This is what facts are. And when we organize these facts into a certain formation, this organized set of facts becomes information. This information is now another level of knowledge. One level of knowledge is the facts. Another level of knowledge now becomes what I say, information. Information is nothing, organizing or putting in proper form the facts. And when this information, the facts organized, are utilized for a certain purpose, it is called knowledge. And when knowledge is enlightened, the enlightened knowledge becomes wisdom. And what is this enlightenment? What do we mean by enlightened knowledge? The enlightened knowledge is for the greater good. The knowledge which can be utilized for uplifting the self and also uplifting others, for whom the use of that particular knowledge is intended. Now, I would here like to quote a shlok from the Bhagavad Gita. In chapter 9, shlok number 1, Shri Krishna says that Jnanam Vijnana Sahitam Yat Gyatva Mokshyasi Shubhat. Now, what does it mean? Jnanam Vijnana Sahitam. Jnana means knowledge, Vijnana means wisdom, Sahitam means with. So, what Krishna says? He says, Jnanam Vijnana Sahitam, knowledge with wisdom. And then he completes the phrase saying, Yat Gyatva, knowing which, Mokshase Shubhat. There is Moksh and there is Shubh. Moksha means enlightenment and Shubha means auspicious. So that means if we combine the whole thing, what is knowledge? Knowledge has to be with wisdom, and wisdom in such a manner that it leads to light. And number two, it is auspicious for everyone. Now, I have taken this shlok from Bhagavad Gita on one assumption, and that assumption of mine is that the ancient Indian wisdom is rooted in the Vedas, Upanishads, because they are the oldest on this land. Vedas, Upanishads, and their summary is there beautifully presented in the Bhagavad Gita. So based on this assumption, I say that here the ancient Indian wisdom is that we should have knowledge, but knowledge should be such a knowledge which is with wisdom, and wisdom which essentially should lead to eventually enlightenment and auspiciousness for all stakeholders. It should not be, the knowledge should not be used as a weapon. For example, we will put it this way. Contrast this with the capitalist thought process, which has emerged from the West. The capitalist thought process is simple: make profit, and more profit. And number two, another aspect of this is that there is an element of exploitation. They are surviving, their philosophical strand is upon survival of the fittest. That is right from the very beginning, that you survive if you are the fittest. And if you are not the fittest, you don't survive. But here we are saying that the knowledge should not be used as a weapon. It has to be utilized only with the goal, one goal, and that goal is that there should be auspiciousness for everyone. Now, what does it imply for us in the management and business theory that we are talking about? Here it is, we are talking about a situation which West also is talking about in a little bit way nowadays. What that little bit way is, for example, these days, some theories have come from some behavioral models have come from the West, And these behavioral models are known as, say, servant leadership. These are spiritual leadership that they are talking about. But they are actually at the same time servant leadership as well as spiritual leadership. A lot of research has now emerged which is saying that there is substantial amount of dark side of this also. When we talk about spiritual leadership, when we talk about spiritual leadership, at the same time, research is showing that the people who are following this, they eventually tend to become dictators. Now, there is something wrong, that the dysfunction of such noble ideas, like servant leadership, where the focus is that you do not focus, the leader does not focus on his own self-interest and even on the interest of the organization as a whole, but the starting point and ending point becomes the aspirations of the employees, aspirations of the subordinate on one hand, and the aspirations of the final client of the organization, that is the customers. Even in this case, this is happening. So why is it happening? That means these theories have something basically fundamentally flawed in them. And what is that fundamental flaw? That fundamental flaw is that they are not talking about what we are talking here, what Shri Krishna says, the jnanam vijnana sahitam yad gyatva mokshase shubhat. Mokshase shubhat, that is the enlightenment, the moksha part, and the shubhat part, the shubh part, the auspiciousness part, they are missing. So this is one aspect that needs to be considered, dear friends, when we talk of preparing or redefining our management discipline in the light of the ancient Indian wisdom. Now, I shall like to proceed further. What are some of the basic tenets of ancient Indian wisdom which could be definitional for the purposes of preparing our management teaching, management practice, and management research? What could be the starting point from there? That starting point has to be the assumption that we have about the people. What kind of assumption do we make? Please see, in West, one theory came which stated the assumptions about the people. And that theory was theory X and theory Y. I'm sure all of you must have read that. McGregor's theory, theory X, theory Y. Theory X is an assumption about the people. It makes certain assumptions regarding the people, and based on those assumptions, managers are prescribed to behave in a certain way. Similarly, theory Y, again, theory Y states certain assumptions about the people, and based on that assumption, managers are advised to behave in certain another way. What is the assumption that we have to make, or we make, as per the ancient Indian wisdom? Now see the assumption. I would like again to draw upon the Bhagavad Gita in this regard. In the Bhagavad Gita, there is a shlok, and that is in 18th chapter, the last chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, and this shlok is the shlok number 63. I am especially mentioning the number of the shlok because in 66th shlok, that is just after two more shloks, Shri Krishna rests his voice. The message from the Lord stops in the 66th shlok. In 63rd shlok, that is when he's just concluding his discourse. At that moment, see what he says. He says, Itite jnanam akyatam guhyad guhyataram maya vimarshya etat visheshena yathechasi tatha kuru. Let us just look at it. Let me give you its padas and meaning of that, and let us try to understand then what is the basic assumption that Shri Krishna is giving us about the human beings. See let me look at this again. Itite jnanam akyatam. Iti means completed. Te means to you. Completed to you, jnanam akyatam, the description of the knowledge. That means I have given you all the knowledge I had to give. And then he says, guhyad guhyataram maya. Guhya and guhyataram, me. I have given to you a knowledge which is deeper of the deep. Now mark the words. He is not saying deepest of the deep. He's saying deeper of the deep. That means leaving scope for further depth to come. Somebody else may come and somebody may give greater depth to the knowledge that I have already expounded. He is not giving the finality. It is deeper of the deep. Very important point, my dear friends. And now let me repeat. Itite akyatam, itite jnanam akyatam guhyat guhyataram maya. That is, I have completed all the knowledge. I've given you all the knowledge that I had to give you, and this knowledge is deeper of the deep. Now he says, vimarsha etat. Vimarsh means think over it, brood over it, ponder over it, reflect over it. Vimarsha etat. Visheshena, especially think over it, especially brood over it. And then he says the final phrase, yathechasi tatha kuru, do as you like. Now he says, do as you like. It is Sri Krishna saying. Sri Krishna, after having shown his Virat Swarup, after having stated in as far back as in 7th chapter that aham kritsanasya jagata aham prabhavah pralayastatha. Aham kritsanasya jagata prabhavah pralayastatha. I am the cause of the universe, I am the origin, and I am the cause of its finishing. Now, an individual who is saying that I am everything, that person, when he comes and concludes the divine personality that he is, after having shown that I am divine, he is saying that I have given you all the knowledge. I've given you all the knowledge which is deeper of the deep, but you think over it, you brood over it, you reflect over it, and do as you like. Now, this shlok actually is the central point of fundamental Indian thinking. It says that every individual is free. You are free to think, do what you like. That is, there is no command and control. Individual freedom is granted. Now, what is the implication of this individual freedom for granted? It does not mean a complete chaos, that everybody functions in one's own way. One's ignored the society. No. It means on the fundamental issues, you are free to have your own opinion. You do not commit a sin just by being different from others. If I am right, you can also be right. If you want to do something in a certain way, fine, you can do it. As long as you don't harm anybody, it is okay. And this shlok therefore says one thing very clearly. Instead of having command and control, let us have a system which is self-organized system. Now, this kind of thinking of self-organization, this is beyond the thinking of the Westerners. Why it is beyond the thinking of the Westerners? Because I shall discuss upon this a little later from now when I discuss the question of ethics. But for the time being, I can say that you are right, I am also right. There is not a single way to perform a particular task. There is not a single method that must be pursued to achieve a certain task. There can be multiple ways, multiple paths. And that is why in India, when we look at it spiritually, so we say there can be different ways of getting to God. And all ways are acceptable, all methods are acceptable, which is not so with other religions. Other religions, particularly the religions coming from West, they prescribe a single way. Only one single way is the right way, and that is their way. Bible specifies one way, and Quran specifies one. Philosophical underpinning is very important for us Indians. That is respecting the individual freedom. So at workplace also, for that matter, when we are talking of managing the resources at a workplace for the purposes of auspiciousness of all, I'm not saying profit for all, I'm saying auspiciousness for all. So that should become the central point for teaching management, practicing management, developing new theories of management, and researching in that particular direction. Another point after this, my dear friends, that point is, let us just try to demolish some of the myths about Indians. Westerners have created a lot of myths about it. I will say, if you want to know the Westerners' opinion about what they think of India, then you have to read just a few books. For example, Catherine Mayer's book, if you read, she's an American. She was an American, and she wrote this book called The Face of Mother India. And when she wrote this book, Face of Mother India, by 1950, it had already sold 25 million copies. And how she has presented our thinking, you would be shocked to see that, to read that, what impression they carry about us. I would not like to go into detail. There is nothing positive about us Indians or about Indian philosophy, about thinking. Everything is all negatively painted. Without going into that detail, from the point of view of management, from the point of view of working of the business enterprises, one myth I would like to talk about here. Everything cannot be covered in this short span of time. So I shall cover only 1 or 2 or 3 points here, and then I will take questions from you. The myth is that Indians are very good when they work individually, and Indians are very bad when they work collectively. And the reason that they give is that our philosophy focuses only on the individual freedom. As summarized by the shlok of Bhagavad Gita that I quoted just now. Now, this is one feeling, that this is one myth that has been created. Actually, nothing could be farther than truth. Philosophically, the group behavior has been very greatly focused in India or in Indian thought process. It is not the you can have individual opinion, but as far as growth is concerned, as far as development is concerned, as far as evolution is concerned, it is very necessary for you to have collective behavior concerned for society, concerned for everyone around, concerned for locality, concern for society, concern for everyone around, known as Kathopanishad. In Kathopanishad, there is a very famous shlok there, and that shlok summarizes the Indian philosophical standpoint regarding the group behavior. And what this shlok says, it says, Sehna vavatu, Sehnau bhunaktu, Sahaviryam karvavahai, Tejasvi navadhit mastu, ma vidvishavahai. It has a very beautiful meaning. It says, Sehna vavatu, together we are protected. Sehnau bhunaktu, together we are nourished. Sahaviryam karvavahai, together we work hard. That means individual hard work is not important. It is the collective hard work that is important. And then they say, Tejasvinavadhitamastu, together we get glory. It is not the individual glory. It is the glory of togetherness. And Ma vidvishavahai, the shlok ends with a beautiful statement that let there be no jealousy. Now, in the group behavior, what is the biggest obstacle? The biggest obstacle is jealousy, envy. And if you have jealousy and envy, there can be no team spirit. There can be no collective effort. Now, this statement, aspect of the wisdom, from where has it come? And what impact it has had upon our thinking? And that impact is that we are collective beings. And that is why the system of joint family was emphasized here. And whenever we talk of the society or whenever we talk of the groups, how do we talk of groups in India? We begin with family. From family to our locality, from locality to city, from city to Rashtra, and from Rashtra to the entire universe when we say Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam. The word is, see the choice of the words. Vasudhaiv, entire world, entire Prithvi, entire earth is Kutumbakam. It is like a Kutumb. Kutumb means the family. Now please see. So this is a huge myth about us Indians. And therefore, this particular aspect therefore needs to be looked at by us, by the management scholars, by the academicians, by practitioners in this regard. And this myth needs to be busted, my dear friends. So this is another aspect that we can look at when we talk of the world of management from the point of view of the ancient Indian wisdom. Then, my dear friends, another aspect. Another aspect is that Western world, Western thinking, Western models, they focus essentially on compliance. Now, in Indian thought, it is not compliance which is important. It is rather the context which is more important for the purposes of decision making and for the purposes of dissolving our problems. Now, a few words I would like to talk about here, and that is that why does the West focus largely, by and large, upon compliance? The reason is, again, their philosophical underpinnings. Let us just look at, for example, let me quote from Genesis in Bible. In Genesis, the description of the earth is that they say that in the beginning, the earth was formless and a void. This is not a concept of shunya as in Buddhism. It is not a concept of nothingness as in Vedic thought. It is that earth is formless and void. Somebody had to come from elsewhere and correct the situation. So there is God. God comes to correct the situation, and God comes and says, let there be light, and there was light. So the first thing that God does is that he brings the light over there. And then the next line in the same paragraph, Bible says, very beautifully it says that let there be light, and there was light, and the light was, and God saw light, and light was good. Here, when this beautiful task was accomplished by God of creating light and light was good, philosophically, God created a dichotomy also of darkness and light and darkness. Likewise, there is binary categories were created. And in Genesis, if you go through, you will find that it offers whole sorts of opposites. Like, for example, you can see above, below, land, sea, good, evil, God, Satan, true religion, false religion, believer, non-believer, history, myth. And so therefore, my dear friends, somebody is speaking. Can I have the silence, please? Yeah. So, my dear friends, the visualization of the universe, therefore, is essentially in binary terms. And look at the words that they have. The first word is, say, above, below, land, sea, good, evil, God, Satan, true religion, false religion, believer, non-believer, history, myth. So the situation is here that one is negative and the other is positive. The negative must be conquered, not only conquered, but it should be obliterated, eliminated. There is an issue of conflict and therefore a conquest at the same time. At the same time, God is separate and distinct from the divine. And that is why these mutually exclusive categories come in. Let me repeat. God is separate and distinct from divine. On the other hand, in ancient Indian wisdom, God is not distinct and separate from the divine. God is embedded in everything. Ishwaraha sarva bhutanam hriddeshe arjun tishtati. In the Bhagavad Gita, Shri Krishna says that Ishwaraha, the divine, Ishwaraha sarva bhutanam, in all the beings, living or non-living. Not only the living things, but also the non-living things. Ishwaraha sarva bhutanam hriddeshe arjun tishtati. It stays in the heart of all beings. So divine and the creation are completely moving together. Now see, please. Now here comes the distinction from the West. In the West, there is a conflict. There is a binary situation of one should prevail over the other. And when we say one should prevail over the other, then one has to be conquered, one has to be eliminated. And what best way to do it? Even inside us, there is good, there is bad. So bad has to be eliminated. And how that can be eliminated? That can be eliminated by way of rules. And if you do not follow the rules, you fall in the trap of the wrong, the evil. On the other hand, in India, the wrong and right are not considered as mutually exclusive. For example, look at for example, the characters like Ravan and Duryodhan. They are bad characters. But throughout Mahabharata, throughout Ramayana, while there is a discussion on the evil characteristics or features of these characters, Duryodhan and Ravan, at the same time, their goodness was also emphasized. Duryodhan was allowed to reach heaven before Pandavas could. One, Ravan's scholarship was always appreciated. So evil and good can coexist here. Why? Because it is a question of the context. Context is more important rather than the rule. The rule has to be employed from the point of view of the context. Now, here comes a question. One question is, how do we resolve the dilemma? A very important part of life is resolving the dilemma. The life actually consists of nothing but of decision making. How these decisions have to be made. These decisions are made, my dear friends, whenever we are faced with a situation where a choice has to be made, there we face the dilemma. How to resolve this dilemma? As far as West is concerned, it is very clear. Resolve the dilemma as per rules. So there is no confusion about it. In India, it is the context which is more important. I would like to narrate a very interesting example in this regard. A story, so to say. There was a sage. The sage was sitting in a forest. He had a beautiful hut that he had created for himself. And he had taken a vow. The vow was that I shall always tell the truth. And this truth, this path I will follow irrespective of anything and everything. And he had taken this particular vow because he was assured and promised that if he follows this vow all his life, then place in heaven is assured for him. Now, he was doing his job, that is job of praying to God constantly, but at the same time, he would always tell the truth. One day what happens, that a young man comes running to him. The individual is haggard, his breath is lost, he is in difficulty. Apparently, he's in great difficulty. He comes and says to him that, sir, there are some people, they are dacoits, they're running after me, and they would kill me if they catch me. Therefore, I'm hiding myself behind your hut. If those people come here and ask you where I have gone, please don't tell them where I have gone. Now, without listening to the sage in this regard, without waiting for his reaction, this man runs and goes and hides himself behind the hut. After a few moments, 4 or 5 people come running, and when they look at the sage, they approach him. These people are looking ferocious. They have weapons in their hands. From their demeanor, from their disposition, it looks that they are not very nice people. So these people approach the sage and they ask him the question. They say, sir, we are looking for a man. Have you seen somebody passing by from here? Now, there is a dilemma here for the sage. Dilemma for the sage is, should he tell them that the man they are looking for is actually hiding behind his hut? Or he should tell a lie that no, he has not seen anybody. Now, as far as resolving this particular dilemma is concerned, in terms of the Western thought, let me take example from, say, Kant, the famous philosopher. According to Kant, there is no dilemma here at all. The sage should straight away tell them that the person is hiding behind the hut. He should go there and find them there and do what they want and do what they would like to do. There's no dilemma here. There is a rule. He has set a rule for himself. The rule is very clear that he would not tell a lie. And the rule must be followed. If the enlightenment is to be achieved, if the auspiciousness is to be achieved according to them, follow the rule and you will reach the enlightenment. But Indian thinking is not this. According to Indian thinking, we have to look at the context before we resolve the dilemma. And what is the context here? Context here is that life of somebody is at stake. Should we save the life of the person or sacrifice the life of the person? Now, if that is the criterion, that we want to save the life of the person or we sacrifice the life of the person, the context is very clear that we must save the life of the individual. So the sage should tell a lie, and telling the lie will not be the cause of his flouting the rule. It will not be considered as the flouting of the rule. It will be considered as having followed the rule, because following the rule would have resulted in the death of somebody else. And yes, one thing more, according to Indian thinking, there could be one more solution to resolving this particular dilemma. And that could be this, that the sage could say, I know where the person is hiding, but I will not tell you, dear friends. So the dilemma is resolved. So it is this context, it is this point that is very important. And now, one more thing I would like to add over here. Question here is that when we talk of decision making of any kind, that is resolving the dilemma, what should be the approach? So one aspect is definitely that is called the context. Context is sarvopari. Context is of paramount significance. Context is very, very important. Apart from this, another point. That point is that resolution of the dilemma should be based on swadharma. That is dharma of the self. Now, what is this dharma? What do we mean by this dharma of the self, or swadharma as we call it? This is described very beautifully by a modern scholar named Rajiv Malhotra in his book Being Different. And he says that this can be called sattvic consciousness. That is, dissolution or resolution of the dilemma shall be made on the basis of the sattvic consciousness. And what is sattvic consciousness? Sattvic consciousness is what Aurobindo Ghosh describes, that sattvic consciousness consists of truth, honor, loyalty, fidelity, courage, chastity, love, self-sacrifice, harmlessness, forgiveness, compassion, benevolence, beneficence, etc. And these elements of sattvic consciousness should be practiced according to the context. And if we do that, then the knowledge that emerges and the consequences that come up as a result of that, those will be automatically leading to mokshasi shubhat. That is, it will be leading towards light, leading towards enlightenment, and also leading towards auspiciousness for all the stakeholders. So this is about decision-making models, my dear friends. And not only decision-making models, but also they will become the central point for the group, for understanding the dynamics of group behavior. If we add that particular element, then the complete mode of functioning of the kind of education that we impart to our management students and the kind of research that we'll do in the field of management, that will change completely and for the greater good of all, greater good of not only the practitioners of management, but of the society as a whole. Then last point, my dear friends, since time is short, the last point is the point relating to the issue of gender. Very important point. What should be the view of gender in the management practice? The Western models, Western theories are talking exclusively in terms of the liberal thinking of feminism. That is it. And this is essentially a reactionary movement rather than conciliatory or auspiciousness driving movement. For this, this can be debated undoubtedly. What I'm saying can be definitely debated, should be debated. But what does the ancient wisdom, in ancient Indian wisdom, say about the issue relating to gender? For this, we will first have to understand what is the worldview of ancient Indian wisdom regarding the women. What is that worldview? Once again, for looking at that, let us look at the Bhagavad Gita, the summary of the Vedic thought and the Upanishads and Shastras, which contain the ancient Indian wisdom, which are the embodiment of ancient Indian wisdom. In the Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna says that women have 7 characteristics. And these 7 characteristics are Kirti, Shri, Vak, Smriti, Medha, Dhriti, and Kshama. Now, what does it mean? Let me explain. First is Shri. Now, what is Shri? Shri is prosperity. And we know it is the most important thing. Prosperity of what kind? It is not merely the material prosperity that we talk about. It is the prosperity which manifests in terms of several things. Now, let me one explanation of the term Shri is that a person can be considered possessing Shri if that person has four things with him. And these things are, number 1, material wealth. Number 2, status within the society. Status means respect in the society. Number 3, a position in the society. And number 4, the person has a capable, competent heir. Heir need not be a son. Heir can be a daughter also. So the thing is that women are considered as possessing Shri, and that is why, in India we say Shriman. The prefix Shriman is added to the names of all men, and Shrimati is added to as a prefix to the names of women. Shriman means the person who possesses Shri, and Shrimati means the mind which will lead to the possession of Shri. So the position is Shrimati is superior to Shriman. This is what ancient Indian wisdom is as far as women are concerned. And then look at the other qualities. Kirti. Kirti means glory. Vak. Vak means auspicious speech. Women are embodiment of auspicious speech because of the love that is contained in them, because of the feature that they carry, the potential of being mother. Smriti, which means memory. Medha, which means talent. And Dhriti, ability to face difficulty. And finally, Kshama, forgiveness. Now, forgiveness comes naturally to women. Dhriti, ability to face difficulty, comes naturally to women. Medha, that is talent. It comes naturally to them. What a great talent it is. All women have the quality of motherhood. They know how to take care of people, not only their own children, but to take care of everyone around. That is why Medha and Smriti. Now, the thing is, my dear friends, when we think of women in this way, so women are not just equal, they are more than equal. And one point, as far as management is concerned, I can raise here. And that point is that so far, all organizational structures are based on the assumption, they are based on the assumption that men are the people who work. Women do not work as if. The organizational structures are based on the assumption that man goes out from home at 9, comes back at home at 6 in the evening, and well, accordingly the jobs are designed, accordingly organizational structures are designed. I would say, if we look at the ancient Indian wisdom and we accept the fact that women are more than men, and we also accept the fact that women are an important component of workforce, then all organizations should be restructured in a manner as to take into account the needs and requirements of women per se. So, my dear friends, these are some of the aspects that I have discussed with you here in this short time. These are some of the leads that I have given to you from my point of view, from my understanding of what ancient Indian wisdom is and how it can be utilized for the purposes of giving a new direction to the field of management, to the field of teaching management, to the field of practicing management, as well as doing research in this particular field. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, you are most welcome to ask, please. Management as gleaned from classical literature of India. Nice examples in right context. Professor Sharma's talk is worth listening. No. If you have any questions, please ask. Yeah, question is this. Sir, you explained how status of women elevated in our scriptures. My question is was it practiced by the society? You are talking, the question is, let me repeat the question. Question is, was it really practiced by the society? You see, I am not talking of, if you talk of the recent past, answer is no, not recent past. Not ever since this land became subject to invasions from outside. But before that, women have got a very high regard and status within the society. Yes, that was there. There were large number of philosophers who were women. If you look at the Indian Vangmay, Vangmay means the body of scriptures, body of shastras, then you will find a large number of texts have been written by women. There was a myth again about India. The myth was that Indians have not written anything. This was a myth spread by the Westerners. That Indians did not write, Indians did not document their knowledge. But this is a myth. The manuscript mission that was started in India has so far discovered millions of manuscripts, and a good number of them have been written by women. They have not come to the fore. They have not come forward. But yes, the thing is that the independence that the women enjoyed, that independence was circumscribed because of the invasions from outside of the people who did not respect women. And I don't have to go far for this. You just look at the history of partition. BBC has prepared a documentary on this. BBC, I'm quoting from BBC. BBC documentary is available where the mobs attacked Sikhs. And when the mobs attacked Sikhs, these Sikhs of Punjab, Pakistan of that time, were worried what would happen to their women. And these Sikhs killed their women. And women actually offered themselves to be killed. There is a description in one of the documentaries where a person who is very old is describing his experience. He was saying that when I was just 18 years, my sister was 19 years, or maybe it was vice versa. He was 19 years and sister was 18 years. My father carried a kripan or a talwar in his hand, and my sister sat down. He hit her neck, but somehow the kripan did not, or the talwar sword did not cut her neck. Something came between, and it was the gut, they call it, the braid that they have, that came in the way. The girl removed her braid without crying, and my father simply killed her. And after that, the documentary goes on to goes on to document the statement made by this man. It says that I kept hearing thak, cut, which means all my cousin sisters were being killed by my chachas, by my tayas and others. But there was not a single cry that was coming. Everybody sacrificed oneself. Different story. But the point here is, if this kind of environment happens, if the invasion comes and invaders come and they attack your women and so on, how would you protect them? You would protect them by concealing them. But to protect them, to protect your honor, so to say, what do? You take away their rights, you take away their liberty. But today, that thing is not there. We are living in a society where rule of law substantially exists. So then let us look forward. It is quite possible that we give a better status to women than they have enjoyed because of the medieval invasions that came and their freedom was taken away. Yes, any other question, please?
Yes, sir, we've got one more question. The Rig Veda clearly proclaims that
I am not able to hear. Please, Parul, can you speak again, please?
okay. So the question is, the Rig Veda clearly proclaims that women should be given the lead in ruling the nation
No, I'm not able to hear.
society. So why Western countries have such low impression for us?
I'm sorry.
Some questions are in the question and answer. You can pick up yourself.
Question and answer. Is it in chat?
No, Q&A.
Where can I see Q&A?
Near the chat.
Achha, okay. All right. I can see. Well, management in Ramayana, kindly explain. Dr. Sridevi, it will take a lot of time because my time was supposed to be from 12 o'clock to 1:30. I cannot go beyond 12, so I cannot answer this question right now. But I will send you some literature. I will try to send you some literature, Dr. Boja Sridevi, where you can understand how management can be, how Ramayana can be utilized for the purposes of management. Yes, Dr. Kavya Seni is raising a question. She says that women should be given the lead in ruling the nation and in society. So why Western countries have such low impression for us? Western countries have low impression for us because by the time Westerners came here, the society they came somewhere around, say, 1750s. Some of these books were written in 1880s. Like one book was written by William Monier. The book is Indian Wisdom. You look at that, how he described. They have negative impression of us. They have negative impression of us for their own reasons, for their own thinking, because their objective was, the Westerners, when they came, they described all this. One of the objectives they had was to evangelize this country, that Christianity was superior. And also they were having this feeling of white supremacy, the white man's burden. Everybody else who were not thinking the way the Westerners were thinking were considered as backward. They were considered as primitive. So we Indians, and I told you just now, in Bible, God is separate and distinct from divine. And we Indians always said that divinity is everywhere. This is an abomination according to them. This is something which is blasphemy according to them. It is an insult to God according to them. So they had very low impression, and they have low impression of us because of this philosophy. But the thinking is, you have to judge which is superior philosophy. Is it that divine is everywhere, or it is that divine is different from what God is? So it is a very wide subject, my dear friends. We can go on discussing this, but briefly I can say that this was the main reason why they have low impression for us. As I quoted the book, Catherine Mayo, The Face of Mother India. Read that book. everything which is negative that is portrayed about India. For example, you must have read that famous story, Around the World in 80 Days. The character from England takes the round of the world in 80 days' time. But when he comes to India, he comes to somewhere around Madhya Pradesh. There, what he sees of all things is only one thing, and that is the practice of sati. He does not see anything else. The author does not describe anything else. Author describes only one thing, and that is the practice of sati. As if whole India is to be defined by the practice of sati. So this is what it is, my dear friends. Then Dr. Kavya Seni is saying, Rig Veda clearly proclaims that women should be given the lead in ruling the nation and in society. So why Western society have such low impression for us? I've given you the answer to this question. Yes, she has actually. Leaders of most top organizations world over are Indians, technocrats and managers. They have risen to the top by combining and blending Western management concepts and Indian wisdom and thought. Correct. I agree with you. Wonderfully said. But with Dr. Puneet Pandey, this observation is very nice presentation. But I would say that rather than, yes, we should take everything good from everywhere, from West, everything. But still, the kind of management knowledge, kind of body of knowledge that we are creating is essentially an extension of Western thought. Its foundation is the Western thinking of compliance. Whereas we need to change this, modify this. Even Westerners can learn this from us. If we modify the existing knowledge, existing body of management knowledge, which is aimed at achieving the objectives of moksha and shubha, that is enlightenment and auspiciousness rather than pure profits. And let me tell you one thing, profit was an objective. And when Peter F. Drucker wrote about profits, wrote about objectives of organization in the year 1956, he said that profit should not be the sole objective. Profit should be a secondary objective. Primary objective should be social responsibility of business. But from 1956 to 1993, he registered a change in his thinking. And he came back to the conclusion that no, social responsibility is not as important. It is the profit that has to prevail. Profit is more important. And what we are saying, no, not profit. It has to be auspiciousness. Profit should be there. But the profit should be for all the stakeholders so that it creates auspiciousness, so that it creates enlightenment for everybody. So if the management knowledge is based on this foundation, the nature and character of that management knowledge will automatically be different. I hope I've answered this point. Profit is not a dirty word. Mr. Puneet Pandey says, profit is not a dirty word. Can discuss at length, offline. Yes, profit is not a dirty word, no doubt. I'm not saying profit is wrong. Profit is right. But maximization of profit is dirty word. Because maximization is impossible. And when we talk of the classical economics, maximizing the profit, minimizing the cost, then cost means when human beings becomes the cost. In that case, that is the reason. Profit is certainly not a bad word, certainly not a dirty word, but maximum profit is. And let me tell you, the work done by Daniel Kahneman, the work done by Mark G. Simon, both of them received Nobel Prize respectively in 2002 and 1970. Mark G. Simon in 1970 and Daniel Kahneman in 2002. Their work substantially establishes that maximizing profit is not something we truly pursue. We profess to pursue maximum profit, but we are never able to do. Please understand this. We are never able to do. We only pursue the second best, the Lancaster's theorem. So profit is not a dirty word, no doubt. I agree with you. But it has to be profit with auspiciousness, profit with, and which will lead to enlightenment. That is it. Indian culture, well, there are a lot of questions, points coming, my dear friends. I think this should be all.
Yes, sir. I think we
Sakshi Tayal is saying, but Indians are also running behind profits only without auspiciousness. Why so? Well, influence of the, we are still coming out of the influence of last 2000 years of invasion. That is why we have only started talking about ancient Indian wisdom now. We have started talking about our Indianness now. We have started becoming proud of our Indianness only now. Otherwise, my dear friends, we have been always on the defensive. We were placed completely on the defensive by the Westerners, because whenever we talked of our Indian goodness, they pointed out the malaise that affected our society. They would point out at the evils of casteism, sati, and the things like that. And we were placed on the defensive. And these Westerners, in the last 200, 250 years, they have also tried to interpret our Indian standpoints, our Indian philosophy, our Indian thought process from the Western prism, from Western perspective. Quickly, I will say one thing. The Western religious thought, for that matter, is focuses on what? A single book, a trinity, commandments, Protestant revolution, heretical tradition, race theory, a forgotten history. They have tried to interpret in the same plate Indianness also. How? For the single book, they say Indians also have a single book, the Gita. For Trinity, they say Trinity of the Church. They say Indians have Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh. Set of commandments. So they say there is Manusmriti. They say there is a Protestant revolution. So they say there is a revolution of thought process in India also, Jainism and Buddhism. There is a heretical tradition in the West. So they say in India there is a tantric tradition, without understanding what does the tantra really stand for. Then they talked of race theory, and they said that yes, the race theory is here, and falsely they tried to create a distinction between Aryans and Dravidians. That is their giving. It is not so, but they have given it. And they talk of forgotten prehistory for themselves, and they say that Indus Valley realization is the same one for us. So it is their template, my dear friends. Through their template, they have interpreted our thinking, our thought process, and our minds have got conditioned through that. It is only now that thinking in a different way has started. So questions are being raised. We are questioning ourselves also. We are questioning past knowledge also. We are questioning the kind of knowledge that has been forcefully imposed upon us also. So transformation has begun, and since this transformation is a social process. Social processes are always slow, very slow, very slow. But the beginning has begun, beginning has started. So eventually we hope there will be a good time for India and the rest of the world because of India. Thank you. Yes, Dr. Parul.
Thank you, sir, for taking up the questions. I request the participants that we can take up the discussion further on the discussion forum, which will be there on the portal. So you can post your comments and you can post your observations on the discussion forum. We are running short of time, so I would conclude by thanking sir. Thank you, sir, for an insightful session. It is always interesting.
Once again, Dr. Guru Ritu Gujarati has asked a question. Sir, could you share more literature or reading material for the women's role dharma in ancient Indian? Yes, Ritu Gujarati, before understanding the role of women, you need to understand what do we really stand for? What is our philosophy? So for this, I would say one book I would very strongly recommend, the book by Rajiv Malhotra. The name of the book is Being Different. And I would very strongly recommend the chapter 4, Order and Chaos. Please do go through that.
Thank you,
And
sir.
of course, if you want to understand better, then there is a chapter, there is a book, Satyarth Prakash by Dayananda Maharishi. Also the works by Aurobindo Ghosh. Those could be very useful. But I think in a very cogent manner, it has been explained by Rajiv Malhotra in his book, Being Different. All right. Yes, Dr. Parul.
Thank you, sir. It's always interesting to explore such areas and related to the field of management. how knowledge should be used to gain enlightenment leading to auspiciousness and not as a weapon added an altogether different perspective. The understanding of the basic tenets from ancient wisdom and the relation it has with modern management has been very enriching. So I think today a new approach towards ancient wisdom and management has been unveiled. We can take forward our research and design our practices accordingly. I thank you once again, and I thank all the faculty members and participants for joining us for the session.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot. Thank you all. Thank you, participants, for being very patient and being a good listener. Thanks a lot.